With U.S. President Joe Biden urging lawmakers to approve this massive new spending plan.
Yeah, it's been called the most significant expansion of the U.S. safety net since the 1960s. $3.5 trillion spending proposal comes on top of a separate $1 trillion bill before Congress. It includes sweeping new investments in education, healthcare, and housing, paid for by tax hikes on corporations and the wealthiest Americans. The plan faces an uncertain future in Congress, with Republicans staunchly opposed and more than a few Democrats expressing reservations. Nicholas Rushworth has more.
In all, he's asking for $4.5 trillion. That's what the US President Joe Biden wants to inject into US infrastructure and welfare over the next decade. Money would go to education, the health sector, housing, the environment, paid for by tax hikes on the rich and on corporations. He also wants to boost taxes on the foreign earnings of U.S. firms.
Are we going to take this moment right now to set this country on a new path? One that invests in this nation, creates real sustained economic growth, and that benefits everyone, including working people and middle-class folks.
Biden's new spending goals are part of the Build Back Better Act. Specifically, additional money would go to creating universal preschool nursery care, tuition-free community college. There'd be more money for Medicare and the first ever federal paid leave benefit, as well as more investment in public housing, among other things. Who pays? Well, there'll be higher taxes on the wealthy and on corporations, and Biden hopes there should be moves towards a level playing field in terms of global business by pushing for a new global minimum tax rate. And he says he wants the top U.S. companies to pay their way.
How is it possible that 55 of the largest corporations in this country paid $0 in federal income taxes? They made over $40 billion in the year 2020, and they paid zero.
With the $1 trillion package already in the pipeline, Republicans in Congress are against an additional $3.5 trillion request. Democrats are taking a route known as budget reconciliation to move forward with a simple majority vote. Some Democrats, though, are wary.
Well, next up, the head of the International Monetary Fund is denying allegations that she modified a report at her previous job to avoid angering China.
Yeah, when she worked for the World Bank, Kristalina Georgieva oversaw the Doing Business report, which ranks countries on their regulations and economic reforms. An independent report found that Beijing complained about its ranking in 2017 and was at risk of falling further before a change in methodology allowed it to conserve its 78th position in the ranking. Georgieva says she, quote, fundamentally disagrees with the findings and interpretations of the inquiry. Let's take a look now at some of the day's trading action. Major European indexes in positive territory to close out the week. The FTSE up around 0.75%, actually bigger gains there, as you can see there, up over 0.8%. Similar gains on the CAC 40 here in Paris and the DAX over in Frankfurt. Mixed bag on the major Asian markets, losses in Shanghai. Well, actually, Shanghai Composite recovering there, so all in positive territory there, Tokyo, Seoul, and in Hong Kong. That's despite another brutal day for Chinese developer Evergrande. Now shares for Evergrande losing ground on the Hang Seng, concern growing over the risk there of a default for the world's most indebted property developer.
And back to news here in France, Cole. The government spending big, continuing its plan to spend big, but not everyone's on board with that.
Yeah, over the last few weeks, the state has unveiled new subsidies for energy and construction, more spending on police forces, and a €1.5 trillion relief plan for the city of Marseille. All that's upset the country's right-wing opposition, along with some economists.
These are not temporary expenses. Some of them are permanent costs, which raises the question of how to finance them. This isn't just recovery spending. The recovery spending is supposed to be temporary. This is structural.
And finally, a new report says many of the world's most polluting companies are failing to disclose climate risks in their financial statements. The report from Carbon Tracker looked at records from 107 major firms. It found 70% of them did not provide evidence they were considering climate issues. A group that includes firms like Chevron, BMW, and Air France-KLM. Researchers say the lack of information hurts global efforts to reduce emissions and makes it hard to know if companies are making environmentally friendly investments. Well, this is also an especially hot topic with the rise of sustainable investing. It's, of course, harder to actually do that if you don't know how companies are actually reducing emissions.
Yeah, and I don't understand why transparency is such a controversial topic in this day and age. Thank you very much, Cole.